Hey YouTube, you're watching Drone Dude, and today we're going to discuss quadcopters. So I have a selection of quadcopters right here behind me, and what we're going to be talking about today is what is the best learning quadcopter. So let's say you want to get into filming with something like the Phantom 2 Vision Plus or the Inspire. You're going to want to choose something to learn on first. Now obviously if you have flight experience before, you can jump right into some of those bigger quadcopters, but I always highly recommend that you have training or at least a little bit of practice on something smaller first. So we have a few quadcopters to look at, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so we're going to start out small. This is the Horizon Hobby Phase ultra small quadcopter. So when you're looking for a good learner's quadcopter, you're going to want to obviously naturally want to look for something cheap, and this is about as cheap as you're going to get with something you can fly around your house. This is probably about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches long. And it is absolutely tiny, and it has really good performance, but it's not very well made. I will say it's kind of a cheap construction, and as you can see here, the remote is microscopic, so it is very difficult to have a lot of control with this model. You can program it to do flips and stuff like that. Obviously that's not going to be super important for training purposes. But it is a fun little quadcopter, good to fly around the house, and I would recommend it if you're going for the ultra cheap route with your first quadcopter. Another thing with this Phase is it has very good orientation lighting, and what orientation lighting is the lights on the front and the back of your quadcopter, and these are actually very important to let you know where the quadcopter is positioned. So when you have a quadcopter and it's far away, it's going to be really hard to tell which direction the quadcopter is facing. And so those lights, which on this one are blue in the front and red in the back, will help you, or at least show you which direction the quadcopter is facing, so you know which way to fly it. And this thing is pretty rugged. You can beat it up. It does have brushed motors, so they're not going to last forever. But it does seem pretty durable. I've crashed it into walls and stuff, and it's still just fine. Alright guys, so here we have the Helimax 1SI quadcopter, and this is the cameraless version. Actually, it was the camera version, I took it off. The camera version seems very, very underpowered, but as soon as I took the camera off, it performs quite nicely. One thing I want to say about these quadcopters, the batteries don't last very long. You might have to replace a battery after 20 or 30 uses, which is kind of annoying. But it performs well, and it's more like, it has more orientation like the Phantom. It's got the same lights positioned underneath the arms, just like on the Phantom. And it's also a completely square shape. So this is probably about 2 inches by 2 inches on the back here and the sides. So that it's more like the Phantom in its shape. However, it's kind of more expensive. It's around the $100, $120 range. And its remote that it comes with is this little transmitter here. It works well. You can do all the trims and everything, which is important. It's not super high quality. It's kind of cheap plastic, and there's no really resistance or anything on the throttle. But it is a good quadcopter, and it is a step up from the Phase micro quadcopter over there. This is a mini quadcopter. One thing I will say, very good orientation lighting, not only under here, but it's also got a backlight, so whichever way it's facing, you'll know that this is the rear of the quadcopter. One thing I also kind of found annoying about this one is that the battery barely fits in the battery compartment, so I had to just rip off the cover for the battery compartment, and and it just kind of hangs in there when you're flying. But all in all, this is a very good quadcopter, and definitely a step up from the micro. Alright guys, so here we have the Blade 200QX. This is a fantastic quadcopter, definitely a step up from these mini and micro quadcopters. This is what I recommend as a trainer for something like the Phantom or the Inspire. This is much like the Phantom in that the way you start it is the same with pulling the sticks inward like you've seen in my previous videos. This particular quadcopter, the 200QX, has tons of power. It has four 3000 kV motors, which means basically RPM wise, and its lift power is incredible. I've actually carried my iPod on this thing. It'd be really easy to set up with FPV. So one thing you'll notice that I have on here are these weird props. These are 3D props. They're mainly for advanced maneuvering and stuff like that. Don't recommend these for beginners, but they do come with standard props that work really well. In terms of orientation lighting, this has fantastic orientation lighting. It's got 4 lights in the arms and 1 light in the back here. They're all integrated into the clear white plastic frame. So in terms of control for one of these, I'm not sure if you can get them ready to fly, but you can get them bind to fly. And what I'm using to fly this particular quadcopter is the DX6 Black. This is an extremely nice advanced remote, and I have multiple RC models stored on this remote. But I prefer using this remote with this model just because I have so many different options that I can do and program with this remote. And it really allows me to have a lot of control over the model versus something that might come with the model. And it's really easy to bind up. And then this model has 3 particular modes. It has one mode that kind of is a laggy mode, or beginner mode. So the way that works is you push if the switch here is in the top position, you're in kind of a slow beginner mode, kind of goes around like this. You flip it into the mid position and it becomes really snappy, and this thing is extremely fast and extremely powerful. And you can adjust the rates for that on this kind of remote. And then you can switch it into the most advanced mode, which I don't recommend at all when you're starting out, but it is a good mode to learn how to fly more advanced quadcopters. And what it does is it takes the stabilization off altogether. So if I'm to take this stick and push it all the way over, this is actually going to go upside down. So that is the 3 modes of this quadcopter. Now in terms of pricing, this is in the $200 range. So it is quite a bit more expensive than one of these models. However, it's going to give you a lot more performance, and it's definitely going to be worth the $200 or more when you are purchasing a $1,500 or $3,000 quadcopter. Something like this will serve you well. And even a couple weeks just training with this is a really good idea. Okay, so moving on. This is the Blade 180QX, and I'm just going to start off by saying by far this is absolutely my favorite quadcopter. It is enjoyable to fly, and the 200QX right here is fantastic quadcopter. It actually outperforms this thing, but this thing has character and extreme durability. I've taken this thing really to the limit. I've crashed it upside down, I've crashed it in trees, I've gotten it stuck in trees, and the thing has still amazingly held up. I think I've had to replace one gear maybe, a $1 part at a hobby shop. I even took this thing out, and for one of the first times I was flying it, I flew it with the DX5E that I have here, and this does not have programmable rates. So this thing was performing really well, but it was windy outside and I couldn't overcome the wind with the quadcopter. And so what happened is it blew away and I lost it. And about a month later, after it had rained and everything, took it out, fired it up, found it like a mile away, and it still flew perfectly fine. Eventually the bearings did rust out, and those are another like $1 or $2 part. Just replaced them and it's performing fine once again. This thing has been really relentless. I haven't broken a prop. As you can see by the canopy here, this thing's been beaten up, but I actually love it so much. I have 2 of them, so it's really been fantastic. Now, one thing I will say, it doesn't have great orientation lighting. Actually, it doesn't have any orientation lighting at all, so it wouldn't be good to fly at night, but these blades really are nice, and the canopy has good orientation paint on it. In terms of cost, it is less expensive than the 200QX. It is around the $180 mark. For this quadcopter, you get of the bind and fly version, which I'm using the DX6i for, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But you get the quadcopter and you get 1 battery. These batteries, one thing I really love about this quadcopter, it lasts about 15 minutes on one of these batteries, which is extremely good flight time for something this small. With this DX6i I have here, this is the less advanced model of the DX6 Black I have down there that I showed you earlier. It's just a cheaper version, and this is the remote I highly recommend to people when they're getting this quadcopter in particular, just because it allows you to have a lot of control over the quadcopter. You can adjust all of the rates, and you still have those advanced mode options that you don't get with something smaller or less expensive. This is around the $200 mark. You can probably find one on sale for $150, and it's really worth every penny. And you can have multiple quadcopters and multiple models on the DX6i. So, all in all, this is my favorite quadcopter. It's really been my longest lasting quadcopter without any issues. I've done flips and crazy airbags with it. But obviously, if you're looking at a basic quadcopter and you're not concerned with that, this has very easy to learn low rate modes, and even in high rates, it's still very stable. So this is what I recommend. And it's got plenty of power. I mean, obviously, it's not going to perform quite as well as this model right here, but in terms of just fun to fly in general, and durability, those are some of the most important things when you're looking for a quadcopter to teach you how to fly. This is what I recommend. So now we have the last kind of type of quadcopter you'd be looking at. And this is definitely not for everybody. This is kind of the DIY route. You want to go into professional filming, but a lot of professional cinematographers that use aerial quadcopters, especially the ones that carry Reds and other very expensive cameras, build the quadcopters themselves. And so by building your own quadcopter and learning all of the parts, it's going to be extremely useful in knowing if something goes wrong, even on your commercial model or something that you built yourself. You're going to be able to fix it pretty easily, and that is extremely useful to know everything and every moving part. I don't recommend this as an easy, quick to learn route, but if you are suddenly interested in aerial cinematography and you want to fly Reds and stuff, this is the way to go. Start out by building your own quadcopter and learn everything about it, and you'll have a whole lot more knowledge about quadcopters and the way they work than if you were to just pick up something like this and fly it. So now that we've covered all these models, I'm just going to go ahead and say these are fantastic models, especially depending on what you're looking for. The 180QX and the 200QX are the best trainers, in my opinion, for something like the Phantom. However, I encourage you to go out and do your research. There are plenty of quadcopters in the same price range that might be better for you and what you're looking for. This is just my opinion and my advice. So anyway, there is one more thing that we can talk about, and that is electronic devices for learning quadcopters, and let's go ahead and do that now. Okay guys, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about the iPad. So there's a simulator called PikaSim that I am going to show you. This application is very simple, $3 for the full version, which you'll need, and it has a quadcopter that you can fly. And it is an extremely realistic RC flight simulator for your iPad. And what it allows you to do is be in a set area and fly your quadcopter. It teaches you two very important things, of which I just talked about. Those two things are spatial awareness and orientation. So it has objects in it. So if you take your quadcopter up and fly it away, and you may hit a tree, or it'll teach you how far away things are. However, it's not going to give you a realistic aspect. I mean, obviously you're going to learn that way better with one of these. I don't recommend this, especially if you're moving to something like the Phantom. But if you do just want to do this for the fun of it and you want to learn one of these, get this app. It'll make a difference when you fly something like the 180 or 200QX. So I always get YouTube comments saying, oh, I'm going to get the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, or oh, I'm going to get the Inspire. I'll be okay because it's easy to use, it's stable. And these things are very true. It's actually easier to fly than many of these quadcopters. However, I highly don't recommend learning on a $1,500 or a $3,000 piece of equipment. These smaller quadcopters will teach you the basics. If you're, really depends on the person, how fast you pick it up. But flying one of these for a week, you will be a whole lot better off than just picking up something like the Inspire. I know a lot of people get excited, especially photographers and cinematographers, want to go out and buy one of these and do some awesome film, and that's really great. But having these skills first is extremely important when you are filming, and especially in situations without GPS, or you may have some issue and you have to fly it manually, and that's where this training comes in handy. So whichever route you're looking for, always start small, and don't go big or go home. Start small and work your way up. Okay guys, so thank you so much for watching. Please comment and let me know what you think. If you want to post a link to a quadcopter that might be what you're looking at, and I can give you my opinion on it, that'd be great. Just love comments, and I love responding. So anyway guys, I will see you later.